This is an interview with Lieutenant George E. Barkley. Mr. George Barkley was born on July 13, 1917 in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Mr. Barkley served from February of 1942 to 1945 in the Pacific Theater of World War II. Mr. George Barkley achieved the rank of lieutenant. This interview is being done on December 1st, 2013 in Tracy, California. This interview is being conducted for the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress as part of Da Vinci High School's America at War project.
Alright, so George, we are just going to start asking you questions about your early days of service, and feel free to extrapolate. So, were you drafted, enlisted, commissioned? How was that process?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your question.
Okay. Were you drafted, commissioned, or enlisted, or did you enlist, and what was that process like?
Well, I guess you could say I enlisted. The draft was chasing me, and I went to the recruiting office of the Navy, and they said, well, we'll sign you up now, and that'll take care of the draft. And we won't call you for a little while. Well, the requirement for the commission told me that I had to have a certain amount of mathematics. Can't think of the name of it now. But anyway, they said, why don't you take a correspondence course, and when you get that done and pass it, why then we'll schedule you for camp somewhere. And I signed up to the University of Oregon, I think it was, to take that math course. And when I got the papers and the instructions with it, it was almost the same as I had taken in college. Only there they call it calculus that I was taking. But anyway, she said it'd take you probably 6 weeks and we'll hold the draft off for that long. Well, I finished it in 2 weeks because it was just a rehash of what I'd done in school. Anyway, I waited at home then until they finally called me in February. No, I don't know. It was early in 42 anyhow. And they called me and sent me to Notre Dame, University of Notre Dame. That's in Indiana, isn't it? I think it is. It doesn't matter. Anyway, and I was there for 30 days, and it had what they call the indoctrination. They had a few classes for me, and well, a whole bunch. And then they sent me, after 30 days, they sent me to New York, and we were told that we would either end up in a university, Columbia University, or something they called the Prairie State. Well, we didn't know what it was. They took us on a train into New York, and the train I was on, or the car that I was on, they took us to this Prairie State. Well, we didn't know what that was, but it turned out it was an old battleship tied up in the Hudson River, and it had been decommissioned in 1911, so you know how old it was. And they'd taken all the superstructure off of it, so it was just the main deck, flat deck. And then they built what looked like a barn on it. It was, you know what a hip roof is, it comes down like this and then down, that's called a hip roof. And that's what this barn looked like on this ship. And we slept in the regular cruise bunks, which were well, there were hammocks. They were like a hammock, only they were about that far apart, about 6 high. I think I was on the sixth high one. I believe that was my bunk. So long ago, I've kind of forgotten. But anyway, we had classes aboard there for 3 months. And after the 3 months, well, we had courses in gunnery, in navigation, and I forgot what else it was. Part of the crew that made engineers out of them, so they were interested in what was below deck. And I wasn't listed as an engineer, so anyway, after 3 months there, I was commissioned as an ensign. And from there they sent me to Point Montera, which is down the coast from San Francisco. I don't know how far it is, 20 miles or so, I guess, something like that. And we had gunnery school there. Well, Montera is right on the ocean, so we could do our firing out over the water. And they had us working on 20-millimeter guns. They taught us to take them apart and put them all back together again, and gave us a certain length of time, which I don't remember now, to do it. And after you got to that point, why, you were ready to go aboard a ship. So then I was assigned to this aircraft carrier, which was being built in Tacoma, Washington. And it wasn't very close to finishing when they sent us up there. Well, first we waited in San Francisco for 10 days to get our orders. And there was a fellow I got acquainted with at the midshipman school, and we were assigned to, both of us went to gunnery school at the same time, and they didn't have any place for us to live, any quarters to live in, because it was just a couple of buildings there at Point Montera, and then some guns out there along the coast, on the beach. And so we had to find our own place to live, and we located a little inn about a quarter of a mile down the road from the camp. And it was like a country house is what it amounted to. Well, anyway, we stayed there for the time we were at gunnery school, which was about at least 2 weeks. It might have been 3, I've forgotten now. And from there then we went to San Francisco to await orders, because and there they didn't have any quarters for us, so we stayed in the Whitcomb Hotel and had all the amenities that the hotel offers. And we just cruised around San Francisco for 10 days. We went out to the zoo and rode the cable cars, went to a few shows. I remember this one show we were at, there was a chorus line, all girls kicking their legs up, and this one girl lost her skirt. Just slipped right down to the floor. And she just stepped back, and the girls closed in on the side, and she went out the door. But anyway, then we went to Tacoma, and we waited there for 3 months, I think it was, while they finished building the ship. And they had no quarters for us there either, but there was a woman that had a big old 3-story house, and she was making her living, she and her 2 daughters were making a living by taking in boarders and roomers. And so we ended up living in that place for 3 months. And I don't know whether you're probably so young you don't remember it, maybe never heard of it. Anyway, they had a big storm up there in Tacoma, and it knocked out a suspension bridge. And I saw pictures of it. A fellow that lived next door to the house I was living in had taken a camera shot, movie camera of the bridge when the storm hit it, and the runway of the bridge was going like this, just like a ribbon in the wind. You've probably seen take